Can I? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Myself again, Dr. Ramu, Dean Faculty of Nursing, Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. So, we are extremely sorry for delay because of some technical problems. So now we have connected to YouTube because I'm happy to say that today more than 2,000 people have participated. Really, I'm very happy for that. And
speakers can join into this. For them log in
and
students and PGs they can go to the YouTube.
And we have shared the link, YouTube link. The students and the faculty can reach to that link and join the YouTube link. And whereas the speakers, the 3 speakers, already we have sent a link, YouTube link, the separate YouTube link for them.
Medbase link. Medbase link for
Medbase link. Speakers. For the speakers, it is a Medbase link. Whereas for all the participants, YouTube link. You can go to YouTube. You can click the register link. Whatever we Rajiv Gandhi University has sent. Please go through and click it and join. Right? One. And sir, thank you so much, Dr. Sachidanand sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor. Just now we addressed the gatherings here. Now, I request Dr. Dayananda sir, Director, Advanced Research, Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, for the keynote address. And before that, he is going to address all our nursing fraternity and about research publications in nursing. Sir, over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ramu, sir. And very good morning and warm welcome to all of you. Slides. This one. It is a great privilege for me to give this keynote address. The nursing plays a very important role in healthcare delivery system of our country. Yes.
Open eyes, sir.
That's right. So there are the 2 components in the healthcare delivery system. So these 2 components include the core component and the peripheral component. The core component includes the nurses and doctors, and the peripheral component includes pharmacists, technicians, and others. Next slide. Yes. In healthcare services, nurses play a very important role as they spend more time with the patient. Doctors visit the patient and gives prescription and leaves. The nurses are the one who follows the prescriptions and spend more time with the patient. Thus, there is a lot of time with the nurses to give health education to the patient and bring a change in the health conditions of the patients, transforming the unhealthy to healthy individuals. While preparing a curriculum for nurses, it is very much essential for incorporating newer knowledge aspects so that the gained knowledge by the nurses can be utilized in the regular services. RGHS is aimed at incorporating the research as part of curriculum and encourage such kind of webinars like international webinar on research to publications in nursing for UG and PG students. Yes. So the advanced research section of RGHS encourages research in several ways. Presently, the research projects are as follows: UG research, faculty research, collaborative research, theme-based research, and integrated research. Next lecture. Yes. Why does nurses need research? So the research helps nursing people respond to changes in the healthcare environment. So all of you have noticed recently the COVID-19 pandemic. So in that we have seen so many changes, isn't it, in our healthcare settings. So as researchers make discoveries, the practice of nursing continues to change. The information the students learn can become quickly outdated. So being able to keep up with new developments in nursing, the research thus helps in their careers. Nurses must base their work on the results of the research. Peer-reviewed, published data that is accepted by the nursing profession as a whole provides guidance and establishes best practices in the field. Yes. So when you're doing the research, these four important areas we have to keep in mind. That is, number one is the validity. So when you select the research question, so you have to study that whether it is a legitimate, sound, and accurate. And then reliability is the measurements result consistent. Relevance is there a logical connection between two occurrences, concepts or tasks. An outcome, what conclusion did the researchers reach? Yes. So there are basically two types of research which the PGs and UG students should understand. So this, regarding the details of this, we are going to conduct the research methodology workshops in the coming days. So in that you are going to know about the details about this. So now there are two types of research. That is, number one is the quantitative research, which shows the numbers, percentages, and variables are used to communicate results. And qualitative research, the findings take the form of thoughts, perceptions, and experiences. Yes. So there are three types of quantitative research. One is the descriptive research. It expresses the characteristics or traits of a specific group, situation, or individual. This type of research looks for new conclusions and connections that can be made based on the observed traits. Quasi or experimental research. It looks at cause and effect relationships between different variables. For example, cigarette smoking and causing of the cancer. So like that. So they are the experimental research. And correlational research considers the relationship among variables but does not draw a cause and effect relationship. And similarly, in the qualitative research, there are 5 types. That is the ethnography, grounded theory, symbolic interaction, and then historical research and phenomenology. So this you will understand in the research methodology in details. Next. Yes. So now I would like to tell you about how does this the research in nursing has begun, and I would like to give the more importance to our the mother of the nursing, that is Florence Nightingale. She is also called as the founder of modern nursing. Yes. So the Florence Nightingale is a noble lady who kindled lamps for the benefit of poor and sick patients, especially at war times. It's something which all should be proud of. Florence Nightingale is revered as the founder of modern nursing. Her substantial contributions to health statistics are less well known. She first gained fame by leading a team of 38 nurses to staff an overseas hospital of the British Army during the Crimean War. Newspaper reports of unsanitary conditions at the military hospital had aroused the public, and the Secretary of War responded by appointing a team of nurses to address the situation. The secretary was a friend of Nightingale and knew her leadership skills. Nightingale and her team arrived in Turkey in November 1854. They found hospital conditions were far worse than reported. Now coming to the RGHS funded nursing research proposals. All of you see this, what has RGHS has funded in over from 2014-15 to the till 2021. We can see the figures. See, begin with only one proposal, and then now it has come to the maximum of 60 proposals. Yes. Next. Yes. So what I would like to tell you is, at RGHS, we are giving a lot of importance to research. We are conducting a research methodology workshop for the faculty so that they get themselves updated about the procedures to be adopted while pursuing research. We are very proud to say that nursing faculty is doing extremely well in the research activities conducted by the university. As all of you are aware, research work should get translated into article which shall be published in a peer-reviewed and indexed journals. RGHS is taking all steps to get the journals indexed. Today's program will give more insight into all the research activities. Yes. We are proud to say that nursing faculty is doing very extremely well. I want to repeat this sentence as much as possible. So I am repeating it. We are very proud to say that nursing faculty is doing extremely well in the research activities conducted by the university. As all of you are aware, research work should get translated into article. So all of you please keep this in mind. It should always, because everybody will do research and they will forget it. Even many thesis topics, they are not published at all. Even though they have done, they have wasted so much of time and they have spent so much, the very good time in the conduct of the research, but they are not published that. So there is no useful if you do such research.
Thank you, sir.
Into article, yes, okay.
Okay, start.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Dayananda, MD, is an epidemiologist, given a wonderful keynote address on this webinar.
Mr. Ramu.
Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Ramu K. Dr. Ramu K is going to speak about the overview of research into publications. So, Dr. Ramu presently working as a Dean of Faculty of Nursing, RGHS Bangalore, and also sir is a Principal, RR College of Nursing, Chikmanavara, Bangalore. And we proud to have Dr. Ramu with us. And he is a very dynamic and simple and humble person. And he has contributed so much for our profession. Sir is a PhD guide for Rajiv Gandhi University and also Indian Nursing Council Consortium. And also he is an author and resource person for various national and international webinars, seminars, workshops. And also he has contributed in our journals, Rajiv Gandhi journals, and there are many other journals. He is taking a role of editor, chief editor. And also there are many more roles which is taken by Dr. Ramu. So we have a very good, eminent and very dynamic person in our profession. And we feel proud to have Dr. Ramu as a Dean of Faculty in Rajiv Gandhi University. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Dr. Clement. First slide open. First slide. Now let me, next slide. Let me say a few words about today's research into publications. I think all of you know that what is publication, right? It is anything that has been published. It may be a book, a research paper, a new article. So what is the research paper? What is a research paper? It is output of the research. Keep it in mind, it is the output of the research. It is published in a journal or a conference. Then it is published research paper or publication. Next slide. Now, what is responsible publication research? See, very important here, the scholarly publications are expected to provide a detailed and permanent record of research. That is exactly the scholarship publications. So it includes a detailed and permanent record of our research. So that's what the researchers have to do for that. So they have got certain responsibility for publication. That means, see that their publications are honest, clear, accurate, complete, and balanced, and should avoid misleading, selective, and ambiguous reporting. Right? So next one. How are research paper published? This is what our director, Dr. Dayananda has told. After completion of MSc Nursing or PhD Nursing, even the teachers, the question mark. How do I publish my articles? My articles are ready. How to publish? Whether it is in the peer review or paid article or non-paid article, plenty of questions. So we will see that. Publishing a research paper in a peer-reviewed journal is an important activity, right? It is also important to find a suitable academic journal for your topic, right? And also for writing stage, so that your chance of publications and wide recognition increases. You will get recognition of your publication as a researcher is mainly depends on how you are going to select academic journal. Next slide. Now, how to publish a research paper? There are certain steps are there. I will tell briefly within 1 or 2 minutes. What are the steps? How we are going to publish a research paper? The first one, ask your professor and colleague to review your research before sending your research paper. Tell your professor and senior faculty or colleagues or friends, go through your research paper, revise your paper based on your reviewers and recommendations. Once you get approval from your reviewer from the professor, you will please revise your paper, prepare your manuscript according to your chosen journal requirements. As Dr. Clement is having a format, even Rajiv Gandhi University is having a format. Before sending the publication to the journal, the journal has certain requirements. According to that requirement, you have to publish that, prepare a manuscript. Submit your article when you feel it is ready to go. Right? Next one. Next, don't be panic when you get journal's initial response. Embrace the reviewer comments as constructive criticism. You please go through that reviewer, what the reviewer has given. So you go through that. Keep trying to get your paper published. Next one. How long it takes? That's very, very, very important. How long it takes to publish your paper in the journal? That's mainly, it depends. It depends, no doubt in that. It depends on, it takes editor or reviewers about 4 to 8 months to read your submission and get back to you. Usually it will take 4 to 6 months. Suppose if any corrections, if any deficiency, you will receive it for revision and resubmit it. So in that again it will take another 2 to 4 months. Next one. Now the very important question is, yes, my article is ready. I have to publish it. Whether to pay for that, whether not to pay for that. There are two things, payment and non-payment. So article processing charge, APC, also known as publication fee. What is publication fee? Of article depends on academic publishers who publish articles. The fee may be paid by the author institution, or his research funder. Even you can pay article for free. Example, our Rajiv Gandhi University Journal. You are receiving your publications, you are publishing for free of cost. There are many online magazines and sites that accept articles for free. So with this is a brief introduction about today's webinar. Now I request Dr. Clement, who is going to talk on editorial issues in publishing the article. Over to Dr. Clement. Thank you so much.
Good morning, sir.
Brief agreement. Right. Which one, sir? RGHS I have given.
So no, sir, you are having the meeting.
To one and all, I thank the Rajiv Gandhi University given me the opportunity for organizing this webinar, one or the other sessions. And this is the second session we have reached right now. The first session we had a quality research, quality article publications into Rajiv Gandhi University and other publications. And I thank, next slide. I thank the Vice Chancellor, is an eminent and dynamic and very active person. Sir has given, Sachidananda Sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor Sachidananda Sir has given a wonderful opportunity. He has given a platform for nursing fraternity to contribute to various seminars, workshops, and also he is a very supportive man for organizing various research activities, especially from UG level to PhD level. He has given wonderful support to organize, to conduct, to publish. So I take opportunity to thank His Honorable Vice Chancellor S. Sachidananda Sir, and also the registrar and the registrar evaluation and all the Senate and syndicate members and also the nursing fraternity principals and editorial member of Rajiv Gandhi University, and all the members directly and indirectly supporting to Rajiv Gandhi University journal publication and research. And I thank one and all. And coming to the topic very briefly, next slide. This is the Rajiv Gandhi University Journal. We have reached into the third issue right now. It's a volume, is 9th volume, 2019 June edition. Now we have completed up to June 2020. We have completed. Now we are getting ready for December 2020 issue. It is on process. Almost few more articles are invited right now. So we are doing a wonderful work, qualitative work, and all the peer reviews are collected from the various experts, and also the opinion, the corrections, the plagiarism, and everything is ruled out here. And I'm thankful to all the authors who all are contributed for this Rajiv Gandhi Journal. Next slide. And here just few issues I just want to bring in. Usually there are thousands and thousands of researchers are conducted in Rajiv Gandhi University, not only Rajiv Gandhi University, there are other universities are bringing out thousands and thousands of research studies, which should not stick on only with the academic purposes and academic criteria. And it should also it should be supporting directly, indirectly to the profession. And the meaningful and the very important issues and very important concept needs to be shared with the other members of professionals, which is most important. And also the professional knowledge and the profession weightage will be coming through by publications. So try to understand, everyone. I just want to say that kindly contribute. Don't stick with the academic criteria and limitations. And also out of that, we need to, every individual, every nursing student needs to take an initiation to publish your article, so that everybody will be, when you publish the article, it will come to the platform that everybody can access and take the new information, what you have done research. So here due to publication issues, there are few things I just want to mention here. It's a lack of interest, lack of motivation from the institution side, and then you may not be, when you publish the research article, you may not be recognized from the institution. There is no monetary benefit for the person. And also the individual researcher or the publisher, the author, he may be confused with the where to publish, when to publish, how to publish, and all these questions will be rising within him. And also lack of encouragement from the institution. And here I proud to say that Rajiv Gandhi has given to every individual, giving encouragement to every candidate, especially UG level to PG and PhD MPhil students are allowed and given opportunity for publications. And also there are lack of recognition, because the more amount of research articles are not discussed, only very standard institutions, they are giving very importance, and we are concentrating on the publications. Based on that, their salary hike and increment will be happening it. So always please give importance for publications, which is very important and backbone of our profession. Next slide. It's always there's a problem how to start. So there are people, experts are nearby you there, and there are principals are there, research scholars are there, and there are teachers are there. They will help you how to climb. Once if you publish one article, then you will understand what is the format and how to do that publishing. Next. So I just make it very simple here. The research process is starting with providing the interesting and accurate finding of analysis. You really need to contribute to all. That's a responsibility of every professional person, and write your manuscript first and edit later. And the third step is use a visual aids, especially diagrams, bar diagrams, and other statistical graphs and bar diagrams. Kindly use it, and also pick up the right journal for publishing it. And it is not a matter like which journal you are doing it, but you make a publication so that everybody will be using your findings. So with that, I'll just conclude. That I'll just making it very brief that, and this webinar will make an eye-opening for all the researchers, that it will make to publish in the good journal. And with that, I'll conclude. I thank everybody. Because lack of time, I'll just conclude myself. and we are introducing a next person.
I'll get to that. Next, we'll go to another the topic that is on how to write a thesis on dissertation. Writing a thesis on dissertation. For that, we're having an excellent resource person about the speaker from, of course, he's from India. Right now, she's working in West Indies. This is she's our close friend. She's very friendly with everybody, and I too know her since many years. This is none other than Dr. Esther Shirley Daniel. Madam, on behalf of Rajiv Gandhi University, we welcome you, madam. Dr. Esther Shirley, let me say a few words about Dr. Esther Shirley. She has done MSc Nursing and BSc and PhD in Nursing, and also postdoctorate fellowship in Nursing. She has completed BSc from Victoria Hospital, Bangalore University, the Government College of Nursing, BSc Nursing from, MSc Nursing from St. John's College of Nursing, Bangalore. She did PhD in Nursing from SRM University and postdoctorate fellowship in palliative care into Johns Hopkins University School of Nursing, Baltimore, Maryland, USA in 2018. She worked as a nurse, educator, administrator, not only in India, even in Oman, now in Trinidad and Tobago. She worked as a senior lecturer at the University of the West Indies School of Nursing. Dr. Esther Shirley has to credit many publications in the referred journals and received grants for research publication from University of West Indies and international organizations. She supervises research projects of both UG and PG and PhD nursing students. She is examiner for PhD in nursing. Dr. Esther Shirley serves as a member of the cabinet appointed antimicrobial resistant. I was very happy to say this. Dr. Esther Shirley serves as a member of the cabinet appointed antimicrobial resistance coordinating committee, academia, research and development, technician working group, Ministry of Health, Government of Trinidad and Tobago, and executive elected member of West Indies Group of University Teachers, that is WIGUT, University of West Indies. She also, Dr. Daniel, hosts as a monthly virtual Zoom meeting of health workers, and she had this 1 hour forum to the health workers. And very important, I'm happy to say that Dr. Daniel is a recipient of an award. She got an excellent award from the End of Life Nursing Education Consortium in 2019, and associate of American Association of Colleges of Nursing, USA, for her work in training healthcare professionals, that is clinicians and nurses in palliative care in the Caribbean. She has trained, I'm happy to say that Dr. Esther Shirley has trained over 100 healthcare practitioners from Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana and Barbados. Madam, now on behalf of once again, I welcome Dr. Esther Shirley. She is going to talk on how to write a thesis on dissertation. Madam, Dr. Esther Shirley, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. and Professor Rao. Good morning, everybody. I don't know, it's morning or afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I thank Honorable Chief Vice Chancellor Dr. Sachinananda, respected Dr. Dayanand, Director Advanced Research, Honorable Dr. Professor Ramu, Dean Faculty of Nursing, and I see Dr. Clement and all the other distinguished persons. Thank you so much for this honor. I'm happy to be with you all on this virtual forum, and I bring greetings and best wishes from my principal, Professor Brian Copeland, Dean of Faculty of Nursing, Medical Sciences, Professor Terence Mangal, and the Director of School of Nursing, Dr. Oscar Cho. Once again, pleasant good morning to all the distinguished speakers, ladies, gentlemen, and my dear students. So I would like the slides to be on, please.
Okay, madam. We are sharing now. Madam, your topic, which slide? RGS webinar and first one, RGS webinar thesis. Correct, that one.
Yes, that's the one, yes. Thank you. That's right. Thank you.
Go ahead, madam. Go ahead. Hello.
Here in this slide, we'll be talking to you all about how to structure your writing, especially your dissertation or thesis writing. The step-by-step structuring of writing I'll be discussing on. And if you see this slide here, this is a what do you call a collage of all the different sites of the university where I work in. Trinidad and Tobago. No, please go back to the previous slide. I think I can handle the slides. Thank you. Trinidad and Tobago. If you see this part of the screen here, this is the Trinidad and this is Tobago here. These are twin islands. And it is in the southern, western, east, southeastern, I should say, and several small islands form Trinidad and Tobago. And we have southernmost link in the Caribbean chain. And Trinidad and Tobago lie very close to the continent of South America, northeast of Venezuela and northwest of Guyana. So that is the location of the Trinidad and Tobago. And the University of West Indies, you see different pictures of universities of West Indies here. These are my students on this corner. And this is a public university established to serve the higher education needs of residents of 17 English-speaking countries and territories in the Caribbean. So this is the University of West Indies. So I thought, it is nice to share some of the snapshots of the university. So today our topic for discussion is about dissertation. First, let us define the concept of what is a dissertation. As you all know, dissertation is a long research or writing project you'll usually do at the end of your degree. Now, word counts vary depending on your degree you're doing, whether you're doing a MSc degree or a PhD degree. Your word count of your whole dissertation will differ, but it's likely to be the longest academic text you have ever written. Now, the dissertation is an account of an independent, original piece of research you have designed and conducted yourself. It tests your ability to conceive and complete an independent research project. It is worth noting that a dissertation is sometimes referred to as a thesis or vice versa. The difference is usually between different levels of degree. In some places, thesis refers to the final project of a master's degree, dissertation, or to the longer final project of a PhD in other places. It may be the opposite. So depending on what the institution refers to, whether it's a dissertation or a thesis, you will have it. Though the length and complexity vary, the basic structure of a dissertation is the same at any level. Now, I want to show you a video which normally, this will be your state when you finish your, dissertation and you finish at least writing some chapters and you go to a supervisor, and this may be the reaction you may get. So let's watch this little video. So is it playing?
Madam, video will not play at once.
Okay. So, okay, fine. Maybe, this video you all can watch later. It's a very funny video wherein Mr. Bean goes and, talks to the supervisor regarding the papers that is submitted. Okay. So we discussed about a dissertation. So what sections does the dissertation contain? Do you have a good sense of the different parts of a dissertation? Let's see what are the different sections a dissertation has. You have an idea that, you have 5 to 6 chapters which are all lined up in this order. So sometimes, you think that, okay, I have to start writing my introduction, my review of literature, my methodology, results and analysis, discussion, conclusion. So you might have a fairly an idea of what a dissertation is all about. So the parts of a dissertation can be divided into three main sections: the front matter, the main text, and the end matter. Now, the different parts are visualized here according to their approximate sizes in the average dissertation. Now, the front matter is everything that comes before your introduction. This includes your title page, your abstract, the table of content. It might also include things like a list of figures and tables, list of abbreviations and glossary. Now, the main text is the most important part of your dissertation. This is where you write up your research. And the main text is structured by chapters. For an empirical research project, your chapters will usually include an introduction, literature review, theoretical framework, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion. Finally, the end matter is what comes after the main text, wherein you put in your reference list and or bibliography and any other appendices. Now we need to check your guidelines. The sections vary based on your field and the nature of your specific research. Dissertations in the nursing, for example, can be much more flexibly structured. Within the sciences and social sciences, when you do your PhD studies, you may take up some social science issue and examine those. So you may have different sections which may sometimes be combined or differently titled. It is important to know which section you do and do not need to include. Consult any guideline you are given and follow established practice in your field. Ask your supervisor if you still are not sure which parts to include. So you must do your write-up with the help of your supervisor. Next slide, please. So what is the front matter? Front matter, as I mentioned to you, it's the initial pages. Let's go through each section in order as they appear, though that's not necessarily the order you will write them in. Some people write some chapters earlier and then come to the other chapters. To start with, we'll look at all the parts that make up the front matter. Now the title page. You all know the title page is the very first page of your dissertation. It's something like the title page of a book. It includes the dissertation title and the name of the author, that is you. It usually lists your department, institution, and program and the date of submission or graduation. Sometimes it also includes other information such as your supervisor's name and copyright information. The exact requirements may vary depending on your department. Also check the guidelines and use a template if your department provides you one. So in the university, Rajiv Gandhi University, it has a template how your dissertation or your thesis have to be structured. So you are recommended to use that format. Now acknowledgements. An acknowledgement section is optional. It's a place for you to thank everyone who has helped you complete your dissertation. Because of this, it doesn't have to be written as formally as the rest of your dissertation. So feel free to express yourself personally. You can thank whoever you want, from people who directly helped with the research to those who were just glad to have around during the process. Note that if you do include an acknowledgement section, you should always thank your supervisors. Don't forget that. So acknowledgement is something, you like to even, sometimes when you have a pet and you spend some time with your pets. So you can include them also in your acknowledgement. So anybody who's been around you during the period of your project or your dissertation or your thesis, you can include all of them in your acknowledgement. The next question is a very tricky one, is the abstract. Do you have a sense of what it is for? So let's see, what is an abstract? Now the abstract is a brief summary of your whole dissertation. It allows your reader to understand your topic and argument at a glance. Your abstract should state the topic and aims of your research, describe your methods, summarize the key results, and state your conclusions. Now, an abstract is not the same as an introduction. You are not just introducing your research here, but providing a summary of the whole text. For this reason, the abstract should be written at the end. After you have completed the main text, you need to know the structure and content of your whole dissertation before you write an abstract. So an abstract can be a tough thing to write since you have to pack in a lot of information into a short space. So that is about abstract. Now the table of contents. The table of content lists all the sections of your dissertation and the page numbers as they appear on. It does not list the title page, acknowledgement, or abstract since they appear before it. It can be tricky to format your table of contents manually and keep it up to date. So it's recommended to use Word's built-in table of contents generator to do it automatically. Make sure that your headings are clear and consistently formatted throughout your text. For example, like numbering and capitalization of certain words, so that your table of content reads well. Now, list of figures and tables. If you include a lot of tables or figures in your dissertation, it's a good idea to include list of each showing where they are located in the text. Tables and figures each have their own separate numbering and should appear in two separate lists. Hence, you should include both. Make sure to include every table or figure that appear in the dissertation. List them in the order they appear in the text. For example, in the same order that they are numbered in. A list of figures and tables should be formatted similarly to the table of content. You have glossary. Finally, if you use a lot of specialist language that the reader may be unfamiliar with, a glossary may be included. This is again an option. It depends on the institution you are, presenting your dissertation. Terms are again listed alphabetically and defined in a concise manner. Consult with your supervisor to see whether you should create a glossary and what terms should be included in it if so. So a glossary is another page that you will be adding into your dissertation. Now, list of abbreviation. Similarly to that of glossary, you will have a list of abbreviation which is worth including if you use a lot of abbreviation in your dissertation. You should always define an abbreviation the first time you use in the text, but it can also be helpful to the reader to have a comprehensive list to refer to. Abbreviations should be listed and defined in alphabetical order, not in the order as they appear in the text. For very well-known abbreviations that are used in everyday text like TV or USA, there's no need to define them, either in the text or in the abbreviation list. So keep those points in mind when you make the list of abbreviations. Now the main text. As I call it, as a chapters, with the front matter out of the way, it is time to look at the parts that make up the main text of a dissertation. This is the most substantial part of the text and the part that will take most careful writing and organization. So let's look at introduction. How to write a dissertation introduction. Now, we all know a dissertation introduction is an important part of every dissertation. It tells your reader what your research is about and why it matters. Start by presenting your topic in broad terms and providing relevant background information. Then you can zoom in to define the scope of your research. Which aspect of the topic are you focusing on? In the introduction, it is important to show the relevance of your work. The relevance might be practical, scientific, or both. And you want to convince your reader that your dissertation is a worthwhile contribution to the body of knowledge of nursing. You can mention the current state of research and cite relevant sources here. It is also essential to state exactly what problem or question your research is addressing and the specific objectives that you have set out to achieve. Finally, you will do some signposting, stating that each subsequent chapter will discuss to give the reader a general sense of your structure. That means in the introduction, it is nice to say, you have many chapters like review, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. So you can give a small introductory paragraph before you end your introduction about that is known as signposting. And there's a lot of information to cover in your introduction, and it can be tough to do so effectively. It's often best to return to it later once you have a clearer idea of the rest of your text. Literature review. The literature review is where you take a closer look at the literature on and around your chosen topic. It's often among the first parts you will write and may even be assigned as a preliminary assignment before you start work on a dissertation itself. We always say that literature will guide the way your research goes. So the first thing you do is your in-depth literature review, or sometimes we call it as data mining, your reviews, right? And maybe your understanding of the literature will inform every other part of your research. The point is to establish the state of existing research and find databases you need to consider, gaps you can address, and previous approaches that have taken place. Now, in order to conduct a review of literature, you will need to collect sources on your topic, narrow them down to the most relevant, read them and evaluate them critically. Make concessions and connections between different sources, looking for things like trends, debates, and gaps in research. Then you conclude your review of literature by showing how your own research has been informed by the sources you have considered and where it hopes to improve on them. So review of literature is a very, very important piece of work that you will have to put in a lot of effort in your dissertation. Coming to the theoretical framework. Now, theoretical framework is a section that often follows or is sometimes, it's combined with literature review in dissertation where you need to consider different theoretical approaches in depth. A theoretical framework defines and analyzes key theories, concepts, and models involved in research of your topic. Again, you're looking at these theories to show how they inform your own approach, which you will define in more detail in the methodology section. The methodology section outlines the approach you took for your research in detail. First, let's define the broad strokes of your approach, whether it is qualitative or quantitative. For example, or whether you're working with an overarching methodology like ethnography. Then you will describe the details. How did you collect your data? When and where the research will take place? What specific tools and materials were used? What methods did you apply to analyze the data? Now, especially in quantitative and experimental research, you should give enough detail to allow another researcher to replicate your study. If you use methods that are unusual for your field, you should explain the rationale. Your aim is to show that this is the best approach to answering your research question. If relevant, recount any obstacle you encountered during the process. If something went wrong with your data collection, describe what happened and how you addressed it. Write your methodology in past tense, as the research has already been completed. Now, you all know that when you write your research proposal, you write methodology in the present tense. But after you've completed your research, now when you actually start writing dissertation chapters, your methodology will be in past tense. Now coming to the results chapter. Results section is just what it sounds like. It's where you report all the relevant results of your research. You can structure the results around each question or hypothesis. Complete data, that is full interview transcripts, can be included in an appendix later. Data visualizations like graphs and tables may be used where they help you to present important aspects of your research more clearly. Don't include tables and figures that just replicate what you've already explained in the text. They should add some kind of value. You should not have a text where you explain everything and then have a table and then have a graph, right? You should not replicate these things. In the results section, briefly state what answers the data provides to your research questions or whether each hypothesis was supported, but do not interpret the results or the reasons why this is saved for the discussion. Because when you interpret why this has happened, why these results come, then you cannot write your discussion. So save all those parts for your discussion chapter. That said, with more qualitative kind of research, the results and discussions are often combined. In that case, you can, of course, interpret. Now, in qualitative data, you can interpret, but in quantitative data, it is best to leave it to the discussion chapter. Now, how do we write a discussion conclusion? Now, in the discussion, then you will interpret your results. This means trying to understand why these particular results were obtained and what they suggest about your topic. A key approach is to compare the obtained results to your expectations. I think the things are moving. 1 second. So, especially any hypothesis established earlier. Were the results as expected? Did they fit the established framework? Now ask what factors might have influenced your results and consider different interpretation, not just the ones you hope is true. Be honest about any limitations of your data, for instance, related to your sample or data collection methods. So you need to be very, very honest when you actually write your discussion chapter regarding your whole work. Now the final section is the main text, is the conclusion. How do you think it differs from the discussion? Many people have this confusion. What is discussion, what is conclusion? Now conclusion is where you wrap up your dissertation by concisely answering your main research questions. You can also provide suggestions for future research based on your experience of the current research. For example, were there any limitations to your approach that could be addressed? Does your research have implications that should be explored further? You also want to emphasize the importance of your topic and the relevance of your contribution to the field here. Establish why your research was worthwhile. Now, conclusion is not the place to introduce any new data or interpretation or arguments. These should already have been covered in your results and discussions. If you find you have more to say, include it there, not here. Now we have come to the end matter, that is your references and appendices. With your main text finished, there's just the end matter left. This consists of your appendices and your references. Now, reference list or bibliography. Sometimes called a bibliography, it is an essential part of every dissertation. It lists all the sources cited in your text, anything you quoted, paraphrased, or otherwise referred to. For each source, make sure you present full and accurate details, consistently formatted according to the specific citation style. Some people do it in APA style, some people do it in Vancouver. So whatever the university says, which style you have to follow, you're supposed to put all your citations in that style. Now, the exact information presented varies according to the citation style and the type of source, and usually details like the author, title, publisher, and publication date are included. Check your guidelines or ask your supervisor if you're not sure what style guide you need to follow. And as I mentioned, the style guides are usually APA, MLA, or Chicago, or even Vancouver. So you can choose whatever your institution is recommending you to follow. Now, referencing can be a little tricky. If you struggle to get the format right, online citation generators can be helpful tools to ensure consistency, but make sure you use one that is accurate and reliable. Now, for example, if you Google and you go into citation machine, you can put your article name and the author, and it will give you a list of articles. You choose the article which you have referred and click on that, and then you can choose which citation you want, and then that citation will give you the exact thing. So it becomes more easier because we have so many online tools available today that you can use. Now, coming to appendices. Appendices are the very last part of your dissertation. These are optional, and use appendices to include any additional information from your research that did not appear in the main text but may be useful for the reader to have access to. For example, if your research involved a survey, you might list the questions here. If it has involved a lot of numerical data, you might present it in tables here. You might just use one appendix, several, or none. If there is just one, title it as appendix. If there's several, then number them as appendix 1, 2, 3, etc. Also give each appendix a clear subtitle. For example, appendix 1, interview transcript. If you don't have an additional information to present, you don't need any appendix. So finally, now you have done it. You may be feeling that you have done it by your sweat, tears, and of course, plenty of coffee in between drinking coffee. Now comes the litmus test. Now you've finished your dissertation. Now, what is the next step you have to do? You have to subject your entire dissertation into a plagiarism Turnitin box. So, what is plagiarism and versus cheating? You see, it's a very nice cartoon that is here. The student is asking, "What do you mean? All my facts are wrong? I copied everything straight off the internet." Most often, students like to cut and paste information into the dissertation, but then this is nothing but plagiarism. So you cannot plagiarize somebody's work and pass it off as yours. So it's important that you have to now check for plagiarism of your own dissertation or thesis that you have written. So there's a free online plagiarism check which you can download and use. You can put your entire thesis in it, your dissertation in it, and it will take 24 hours to generate a report to say how much of plagiarism is there. Or, since your university is using Moodle, you have a built-in plagiarism check that is known as Turnitin. It works well as a tool for educating students about the appropriate use of sources, paraphrasing, and overquoting and citation or citing, and it will generate a similarity index. Now, this similarity index is actually the percentage of overlap between text submitted for plagiarism detection, that is the original source material, and this should not be considered as a percentage of a paper that is plagiarized. This is available on Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, and Schoology. Usually we say 15%, if your similarity index is 15% and below, then we accept the dissertation. If it is above, there will be certain text that will be highlighted, and you have to change that because you would have just copied and pasted into your dissertation. You need to change. Now here I would like to say you do have a plagiarizing check. Online free app is there. You can download that. You can write the plagiarized paragraph in your own words and check how much of percentage of plagiarism is there, and then you will be able to improve on your dissertation, overall dissertation. So I think that is the end of my presentation. If you have any queries, welcome, or we can take the questions in the end. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present this topic.
Thank you, ma'am. SR ma'am, thank you so much for the wonderful, valuable, and informative things you have discussed here. And also, I need to thank Esther Shirley ma'am, because she was the one, she introduced me to Rajiv Gandhi University by organizing many webinars. especially Dr. Nanjunde Gowda also, Madam and Nanjunde Gowda and myself, we have organized conferences in the year of 2008 to 2010-12. Thank you, ma'am, for introduced me into Rajiv Gandhi University for organizing this webinar also. Madam,
Well,
I remember, madam, the days like how we have organized the conferences, workshops, and all, etc. Thank you, ma'am, once again for your valuable presentation.
thank you, Clement. You're welcome.
Yes, madam, we are moving into the next speaker, Dr. She is a nursing legend, none other than Dr. Rebecca Sampson. Madam has completed her PhD in the year of 2003 from Christian Medical College, Vellore. And also Madam has completed her BSc, MSc and all her graduation from CMC Vellore. And Madam given a wonderful, valuable contribution to our nursing profession. Madam worked many years in CMC Vellore as a professor. And also Madam worked in abroad for many years. And also Madam came and worked in Rajiv Gandhi University also, Padmashri College of Nursing for many years. And she contributed and she created, developed and she structured the institution, Padmashri Institution. And also she moved into the Prince Institution, and she also developed the theory into practice, the integration of service and education. She made a bridge, and also she has contributed so much for PIMS development of nursing college and the medical services. And also, Madam is a PhD guide for various Indian universities and abroad. And also, Madam has contributed with various articles, national, international, state level contributions in magazines, and she motivated many students, and there are many students all over the India working as a principal. And also Madam has organized various conferences at state level, national level, and also international level. Madam has organized various and still she is contributing her life to the profession. Thank you, ma'am. We are very happy and to invite for this webinar. Kanchana madam. Madam, shall we start your presentation, madam? Kanchana ma'am?
Yeah, yes.
Just a brief introduction, madam. Thank you,
I
ma'am.
think
Due
we
to
can
some-
go into the presentation. Yeah, we'll go into the presentation, sir. No problem.
Yes, madam. Madam, due to some technical problem, Rebecca madam is not joining. So we are moving into the next session. Dr. S. Kanchana.
Yeah.
Madam has done means her nursing UG, PG and PhD all from the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR University. Madam is a known person of the researcher and they are involved with various research activities by Indian Medical Association and also Nursing Research Society, and she has contributed so much for the profession. And Madam has published various articles in national, international, and also organized various conferences, workshops, symposiums, and all those things. And she's a very active member in our nursing profession. We are very much happy to introduce you, madam. And please, you can start with the presentation. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am. Kanchana, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The next slide? Can I do the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam is moving.
Okay. A very good afternoon to one and all who are connected for this session with all these technical glitches which we are having, but still we have a very good number who's joined through the YouTube link. And thanks to all the learned professionals of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences for giving me an opportunity to connect with all of this session is on writing research articles. We'll be covering on what know-how of how to do the writing research article, and these are the session highlights. The meaning, writing research article means what we have, that original research work, we'll have to present it in a manner that it can be utilized by the people on the other end, and evidences are created and communicate to people. Evidences are created and lying with the book, but how do we communicate it to a larger audience? It is through this journal writing which we do. And it is a body of knowledge which we are trying to disseminate to people who would have a written information or an online open access information for them to utilize this research work into their area or whichever setting they are working. And specifically here, we are talking about the nursing professional. My reflections on writing research article, I would like to share that I've been a peer reviewer in many of the research journals, and we have our open access journal on ourselves. The International Center for Collaborative Research has a ICCR JNR, the Journal of Nursing Research. Sometimes I used to think that all of us probably our major hitch is that writing the statements or writing the framework in English should not be a problem because our medium of instruction is English. However, when it's coming to scientific writing, I think it becomes the greatest hitch, because from A to Z of a paper, if you start correcting, editing or reviewing, it becomes very difficult for us to handle. I think that's why the RGHS and the nursing team has thought about rightly bringing this into the forum. And we have, as nurses, we are doing a lot of recording, reporting, and everything is in English, but still we find it very difficult to write papers. Now, the gap here is because we do something very monotonously. We do not have any creative writing which is happening in our profession. To do the creative writing, a day's work can be reflectively written every day. When I take classes for my BSc students and my masters, I used to say, when you end your day, write a paragraph of what has happened. In that way, you're getting connected to write your own writing. Most of the time, we copy from a book, we write the notes, we write patient histories, which has a framework, but our own writing is not being kindled within ourselves. I think that is what is the greatest gap I understand with nursing professionals. Now, before you start to write, keep in mind that logic is very important in your paper. There's a clear writing, clear thought process in, and it should be very systematically written, and it should be factful. Now, papers cannot be written because it will give you a promotion, it will give you a monetary benefit, or because it is going to give you some credential. No, papers have to be the passionate writing from what research you have done to what you have to tell people that this is what is the result. So logic has to be there. There should be clear writing results from clear thinking. Your paper should represent a critical argument. You have to bring in a dialogue in your research work so that people, when they read the paper, they know that this is a paper, yes, I have to read this paper, and this is going to really be useful for me in some way or the other. So that kind of critical argument your paper should give it, and a clear thinking results in clear writing. So organize, assemble all your information. Don't start writing your introduction and then go searching for results. No, can't do that. All your information has to be assembled. That is going to give you, so you know that every information is assembled, your thought process is clear, your writing is clear, and you have to write with a vigor. Vigor means with the passion, and you should prepare yourself. No, preparation for writing a research article can start from the very first information you do on proposal presentation. You know that you have to write a thesis, write a dissertation, write a journal article. So why not practice for such a event, which you have to have, which has to have to 3 or 4 years or within your 4 years. So why don't we prepare ourselves? So try to have some kind of, some kind of preparation to write. Now that can with your journaling, reflective journaling can help you in writing your own concepts usefully. So know your audience. Why should you know when you want to write a research article? To who is going to read your paper? Who is it, your nursing professional, or is going to be a primary healthcare people, or is going to be specifically specialty oriented people? So which is the journal you're going to select? So know your audience and know the style. Now, what kind of style I'm going to use? In general, in nursing, we use an APA style, but universities differ. For example, for till masters, we follow APA in MGR University, and we have a style in the PhD system. So and when you want to publish in much of the journals in relation to medical, it will be an NLM style, or it will be a Harvard style. So it depends on the journal. And if you want to write your paper, it has to go into the style to which journal you're trying to publish. So here, know your journal. You should know the audience. You should know the style. Now you should know the journal where you want to publish your research article. And there you would have a very great instruction to authors. What I'll be covering is a general components which has to be in a research article. But mind, all the research articles which you have to write has to be in line with the instruction to the authors given by that journal. And every journal have their own system and policies for review. So you have to get in line, and every single word or every single work you develop has to be based on the instructions given to authors by the journal, editorial. The next knowing what you should know is about the basic structure. Now, this is in general, even Esther ma'am has also said that there is a structure for writing your article, and it should have introduction, there should be methods, there should be discussion, which shows why have you done your this research, and for what question you have asked in this study, and how you have done, what kind of methodology and how you have done the study, so that you can answer the question you have asked in your introduction component. And what is that found? Now, this found need not always be the positive end. You can also show negative. For example, you're creating a herbal mixture and you want to see the effectiveness of it on anemia and reduction in increase in hemoglobin. But unfortunately, you don't find there is no change in your HP level. See, the manipulation should not happen. Results should be told as it is told, so that researchers' effort, money, and time is not wasted. It's very important to write your results as by the researcher when you are writing an article. And discussion of the findings, which means you have to discuss. You have asked certain questions in your introduction component, and based on the research question and the objectives you have framed and the hypothesis you have developed, you have to discuss your findings which has been done by which has been identified in your study. So the next to know, which you should know, is how to write it. So every journal article or a research article has to have a framework. Now this framework would be a title, abstract, the text, that is the body part of it, the content, which I told you the format of IMRAD, which is widely used in a nursing area, or in any article or any profession as that sort. It's introduction, methods, results, and discussion, and then the references, tables, and figures. Now, the title. So how should a title be in your research article? There are major 5 components of a title page. You should have a title, there should be an author name, there should be an institutional affiliation, a running head, and an author's note. Now, these are the 5 components of a title page. Most of the time, when we receive articles, either we will have the running head, or we will not have an institutional affiliation, we will not have a corresponding author's name. It is very difficult for the reviewer to do the framework. So from every pin, what instructions, what is given in the author's guidelines, it is important that the person who's writing the researcher who's writing the research article, follow these 5 components and verify. Always have a checklist. Have I written the title page? Is there 5 components there? Give a tick against everything before you submit such article. Now, a title should be very concise. Most of the time, all the title comes like the statement of problem. That is not how a title has to be. A title has to be a very concise one. It should not be the replica of a problem statement, as I told, and title should be fully explanatory when standing alone. So even if you do not write the other parts, but the main phenomena, what you have studied in your research work has to be told. Maximum of 10 to 12 words is what is recommended. Do not use abbreviations in the title, and the method and results do not normally appear in the title. So for example, a study, an experimental study, and all that should never be there. Example, an HHV8 infection after transplantation. Now this can be a stress among stress as a impact factor for versus job satisfaction. This can be the title. The title should be short, but yet it has to communicate the face validity of your study. The author's name and the institutional affiliation is very important. Now, the author's name line by line has to be there. First, author's name appears on the next line after the title, and it is said there is a preferred format. So, based on the preferred format, you can write. However, what author's name you have given in the text, if you want to mention the author's name anywhere down the line of the text, use it as the same. Do not abbreviate, do not shorten the name what you have given, because there will be many people with the same initials and the same names. Should not be varied. The institutional affiliation occurs after the author. So you have the title, you have the name of the author, then the affiliation of the author, from which institution, and your designation, which institution and which university you belong to will be there. I'll show you an example as I come down the slides. And this is generally the format which is used for the author's name and institutional affiliation. And this can be used. It is going to be there on the link for you. I'll show you an example. A running head is a top left, you have to flush left of your page. It shows you the running head. And this running head should appear in every page of your research article which you are writing. And overall, this should not be 50 characters or less. It is not words again, it is characters or less. Counting letters, punctuation, spaces between words, all that will be inclusive of this 50. And author's notes, in case you want to give an additional information, always better to give an additional information about the authors. You want to acknowledge if there's any conflict of interest or any disclaimers you want to give, it can be given in the author's notes. Now, if I can show you, if you can see my arrow, the impact of job satisfaction on nurses' performance, again, that's the title. And if you have another arrow on the right, you see the name, the authors who are there, and the author's affiliation is written at the bottom. This is one, and I can show you some more on the exam component. Now again, that's the name, here the affiliation which you can see. Now, here you can see the whole lot of what I talked to you about the title. You have a running head on the left, that's a flush left of your page. You have the page number on the right. You have the center as your paper title. You have the authors, which is there. You have the affiliations, which is written there, and this is the author's note. So here they have disclosed about the conflict of interest, any corresponding information they want to give to the reviewers when they during the submission can be written there. So this is an exact example of what a title will carry in a research article. Now, this is according to the APA style. This is exactly according to the APA style. If you go, if people find it very difficult to understand on the first lot, I'm only informing, but you need to go in depth to understand. There are YouTube links. There are many links where many researchers have come forward to make it, giving learning tool on understanding of how to write each style and how to write a running head for this style and how to write the article title. So all that is being given separately, and this is the format for the APA style. The next one, after the title, the next one is an abstract. Now, abstract, even actually, it is a brief but comprehensive summary of the contents of manuscript. Again, very short. It has to be very short. And some articles, journal articles, ask for a paragraph format. Some ask based on the heading format. So it depends on the article requirement and the style of the journal, the style which you're going to use to write your article. On the first line of the abstract page, center the abstract. It should not be in bold. The formatting, italics, underlining, or quotation should not be there. Proponents is you have a small background. Again, the background should be only 2 lines. It should not be the whole first para of your introduction. Generally, undergraduate and postgraduate students have a tendency, when they see the background, they take few lines from the background, few lines from the need for the study and add it on as a background of the study. No, it has to be your own understand from what you have written. You should be able to mention it in 2 lines of what the background of the study is. And I don't know how many of us have the habit of writing research questions with objectives. Generally, they say quantitative research means only objectives are required. No, every type of study, let it be quantitative, qualitative, or a mixed method research, we need to have research questions. That questions will be your guiding framework for identifying the solution for your the research work what you're doing. Next is the objectives, methods, results, implications for clinical practice, and conclusion. And mind, all this should be between 200 to 300 words. And again, the number of words differs based on the styles. In general, it is 200 to 300 words, or it should be 150 to 250 words. And at the end of an abstract, keywords have to be given. Why keywords? For example, if the person who's reading the article would like to, have a lead search from your article, then they can use these keywords for identifying other searches in search engines, for the search engines. So that's about the importance of keywords. And a good abstract should be accurate, self-contained, concise, and very specific. And as I said, it depends on the style, 150 to 250 or 200 to 300. And sometimes they change the font to a different font. Some of the articles ask for an Arial font for an abstract and a Times New Roman for a body of the article. So that differences are based on what it is. This is an example from the nursing research, a very, very pioneer research journal. And nursing research, this is the November-December 2019 edition, Stress and Health in Nursing Students. I think currently in the COVID situation, I think what we have to look is the other way around. But this is the kind of research article which was done, the nursing engagement and wellness study. And you can see the abstract given in different, this is the nursing research, one of the pioneer research journals which we have seen. So they have given background, objectives, methods, results, discussion, and the keywords are given there. So to improve the conciseness of an abstract, what you can always do, you can always use short words, don't use long words or long sentences or long, beat about a bush, that's what we say. So always it should be there, and never give the whole conclusion or whole analysis in your abstract. It should not be, it should be non-evaluative. It should not be an evaluative one. Your abstract should be a very non-evaluative, but yet you should be able to give the face validity of your study in the abstract. Only based on reading the abstract, the reader will decide if they are really interested in reading your article or not. That's why the abstract is given. So researchers, mind you, you have to have the skill in putting the whole component of your research in putting in abstract format. The text is the third one. We saw the title, second we saw the abstract, and the third one we are seeing is the text. Text is the body of your research article, which will have this IMRAD form, which is introduction, methods, results, and discussion. The introduction, overall it is 300 to 500 words. You know, you should start from your area to a specific area of the study. How did you shape your study? And from where did you start thinking of the study, conceptualize the study, and how did you end up thinking about the need or significance of this study for the nursing profession? And it should be a paragraph form. There should be a coherence. There should be a relatedness in your introduction of why the researcher want to do the study. Don't keep giving statistics and other studies quoted in introduction. Better than that, why researcher wanted to take up this study. You know, the story of how you conceptualized your study can be written there. There should be a logical flow of thought. There should be a conceptual link. All we are guided by a schematic framework of how to do the study. So you can write that conceptual link here, sufficiently descriptive, and there should be maintained in your study, in your writing. Whatever you write, there should be a brevity maintained. So that's what I told you here. Introduce the problem, develop a background, the problem which is relevant, feasible, ethical. Already it would be accepted by people. So state the purpose of the study, mention your research questions, the assumptions, hypothesis, delimitations, and the conceptual framework, which will form the introduction part of your study. What are the common errors we as researchers would make with time? We might be joyful in writing whatever we had done in our literature review into the introduction. I think it's a very, very wrong step. See, dissertation and thesis or a project what you do or a departmental grant which you have got, all that you are writing it because you want it to be a primary source of information. And from what you have written only, you are concising it so that you cannot have people reading the whole thesis and book, and that's why we convert it into a research article which has about 7,000 words. So that's the kind of conciseness we are asking for. So there you cannot mention statistics, keep overloading with statistics and other guidelines into your introduction. So overlong introduction, unclear purpose of your study, extensive list of references, confusing structures, and missing to state an important work done previously. For example, you would have started a study because you had some other lead study which actually made you to start the study, but you would have missed it. It all happens because we are not assembled our information or gathered information in such a way that we can think, rightly and guide it rightly towards writing the introduction chapter. So now, how would we, there are levels of headings which introduction can carry. Now, if you see the big arrow which I have given, this is the first level of heading you can have, and these are the level 2 headings which you have to maintain or which you can carry out while you are doing your actual writing for your introduction. So level 1, level 2, like that you have level 5 headings which are there. I'll show you that concept at the end of my presentation. So there are level 5 headings, and researchers can utilize that level 5 headings to either bold or make it italicized, or it should not be unbold or not italicized. So that guidance is given by the formats which we are utilizing. Now the second part of our text, we saw the introduction. Next one is the methodology. Now methodology talks about what was done in your study, how it was done, and how did you collect the data, how did you analyze it, and how many subjects were protected. How the subjects were protected, that is the ethical principles, is that what you have to portray during your method section. Now approach and time. Most of the time they would write an experimental approach, but the study design would not be an experimental, it would be a pre-experimental approach. So how, that shows that you are not aware. When the researcher is writing a approach and design, verify that your design, your approach, what you're choosing is related to what you have done in the study. And the participants or subjects, so it depends on either you're writing a qualitative or a quantitative study. So you call them as participants and subjects because criticisms will directly come from your reviewers, and you should be able to redo, you may not be able to redo everything, so you'll have to be very careful when you're writing it itself. What materials you utilized, your data collection materials, what procedure you use, how did you administer your intervention, and and you'll have to write all that in your methodology section. So that's what has been covered individually here: the design, the participants, the data collection instruments, and the data collection intervention protocol, what and all should be read. So what you have actually done, your story of data collection, how did you meet the person, how did you do, you might be writing elaborately in your thesis, dissertation and projects, but when you're writing a research article, you should know how to concise it, and only the main part of your methodology has to be done. Some common errors, most of the time, the errors what we, in introduction, we give a very lengthy introduction, but when you come to the method section, we might miss out information and give only very little information. Sometimes there are research studies which doesn't mention that it is an experimental, or do you have a control group, or how did you do the comparison is not mentioned. So these are two vague informations which we cannot publish your articles like that. So information from introduction, verbosity, again, don't replicate informations, and results, the source of error reported, if any, you have any attritions which were there, you had any limitations. If you don't mention that, then the people might not know. So some common errors which we might have. Next comes the results section, text, under the component of text. So this is basically to summarize the results and the statistical analysis, and the you analyze the data and you represent using tables and figures. Now I'm not going to teach you how tables and figures have to book, because there are n number of information available for you in books and text. So you might be using various tables and figures, but how to give the tables and figures when you submit a research article, it will be told. Actually, you mention the table, but you give it as an attachment or as an appendix to a journal article, or you will write the figures and write the figures will precede your explanation. So how it has to be done, I think it has to go with the journal you want to submit to. So while writing the sections, stick to what is very relevant. Be sure to include basic descriptive data and give results only based on the research questions you have asked. You might have asked additional questions, you might have had additional tailpiece information which you have done, but do not mention it in your results, because you don't give it in the objectives, and if you give it in a discussion, it will be a big confusion in your results section. Now the statistical result, to present all results, even non-significant ones, are very, very important. Now because, should we present, because yes, there are certain results, effectiveness might not have happened, yet you have to mention it. And the symbol for chi-square is not italicized. Most of the time we italicize it, it should not be there. P is always italicized. Do not confuse between lesser than and greater than. Now many of them, when they write, no, we have put it as less than only, but actually it will be a more than symbol. L is less than, and if you see that less than symbol, I think that confusion does occur among many. So give a verbal description of the results, and wherever required, you utilize your narrative, or wherever required, you use your graph or your pie diagrams. Now, common errors you have to avoid is inaccurate data, repetition of data. Most of the time related to the standard deviation scales. Sometimes by our statisticians, when we send the data for review, they'll say the standard deviation is very high, or that means there is an inaccuracy in the data which they've collected. So we have to get back to the researcher. Researcher has to rework the whole thing and then get back to us. So inaccurate data, repetition of data, illogical sequence, all that in your presentation has to be prevented. Expected data from the materials and methods section should not be, section is not reported. Very important, you actually want to prove effectiveness. Sometimes you'll have correlation, association, everything would be there, but between experimental and control, post-test comparison would not be there, which is the actual effectiveness of the study. So sometimes this kind of information will be missed out. So we have to see that it is prevented. Now, this is how you sometimes refer your, discussion session with your, the result session with the graph, and then it has to have your description which is being given there. This is an example of how to present your graph and then tile. Next is a discussion session. Now, as we consider research as a heart of any profession, I generally keep telling this all the time, because without research, a profession could not gain a professional identity, as well as the body of science of knowledge will never be improved. Like that, your discussion, how concise, how clear, and with what facts you say, is very, very important, and that is why it is considered as a heart of the paper. And it should summarize your main findings in use the same key verb tense which you used in your results section, or which you used in your dissertation or thing, because it has to have the same point of view. And the purpose is to review whether the results supported or did not support the hypothesis, which as researchers we will mention in our discussion chapter. So the common errors which we have to avoid is that incorrect interpretation of findings. Sometimes people don't know lesser than or greater than table value, and sometimes the results which they present will be wrong. They don't do it intentionally, because of their unawareness it comes, but that difficulty is we are carrying an image and identity as a nurse, and we might be sending even to other journals, not only nursing journals. So we don't know who will be at the receiving end. Always be very perfect in your presentations. And any obscure interpretation, preferential quoting of references, sometimes spurious interpretations also need not be mentioned. Explanation are too long or verbose, and failure to identify any weakness. See, all researchers will carry some kind of weakness. Most of the time they say there is no limitations for my study, which most of people will not accept to it, because every study has its own limitations during the process of the study. And it is important that we maintain that, and every research paper should highlight on the ethics. How do they maintain, how the permission, if you're using a tool, the right to utilize the tool, a standard tool. And conclusion highlights the value of the work and what you were able to add on to your professional body of knowledge. So that's where you give, and you also allows, your conclusion also allows towards a new direction in the further research, and a new research question has to be born after every research which is being done. So in that way, our research paper have to be carrying a very good dialogue of what you have done, and what implications to the profession is given also has to be given, and what recommendations you as a researcher can be given. Need not be for all research journal articles, but most of the journals do ask for this. Final is a very, very important thing that all of us, we should start training the very first year BSc nursing student in using the reference styling, following the reference style. Most of the time we give them a paper and tell them follow this, but it's always important to explain to them why scientifically the APA style or a Vancouver or a Harvard or an NM style follows this methodology. No, it is to create a uniqueness. So when you see the reference, you say, okay, this is a Vancouver style and this is an APA style. So every, professional, like nursing follows an APA style. So like that, most of the professions have their own style of writing. So it is only to create an identity towards the style of writing what we carry with us. So common errors, what we do is omission of key and relevant references. Too many references we will give, or references, if you see, will not match what the content you have written in a research article here. So there should be a match between what you write and what you give as references. So that's what is major thing, which is we will omit. In general, the manuscript guidelines is you should use a Times New Roman, 12-point font size scale, use 2 spaces, double space, entire manuscript should be, or the entire article should be in double space, and uniform margins have to be there. Use a flush left style and leave right margin uneven. Do not justify. Use the tab key to create a uniform indent for the first line for every paragraph. These guidelines might differ. This guidelines will differ based on to what journal you are writing your research article to. So you focus on uniformity and readability. The maximum word length will be, some ask even for 5,000 words, but some extend to 7,000 words. And maximum number of figures and figure legends are 8. References up to 50 go, but many of them limit to 20 or 25. Acceptable format is a word, and cite references, figures, tables in numeric order. Very important is citation, which I think as nurses we have to start improving, because we are legally, ethically bound to acknowledge the people who have been, from whom you have resourced, resources for your research work. So that's about the general guidelines. Now, I told you there are levels of headings. In anywhere you want to, even an assignment format, if you want to follow, the article can carry all these level headings. So this is the level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. And here, what format you have to write for this level 5 headings. You might have a chapter heading, side heading 1, you'll have a side heading 2, So editing 3, 4 and 5. Till then, APA has given us recommendations on how to order your headings accordingly. Next is the conclusion part here is edit your paper. Your paper you have to keep reading, reading and reading. Most of the time I always have felt that people who actually sent the paper wouldn't have read once they have taken a copy or once they have sent an email. They don't read the paper once they think what they have put is perfect. But if you put a spell check itself, a typographical error, grammatical error, there's so many which you can see. So scientifically, you understand how many errors will be there. So if you want to send your paper, keep editing your paper again and again and again. That's what Michael Ali said in A Craft of Scientific Writing. That's a lovely book which he has written. In my writing, I average about 10 pages a day. Unfortunately, they're all the same pages. And that's a kind of editing a scholar is doing. So as nurses, when we are writing it for the first time or the 10th time or the 50th time, I think we need to keep editing our papers, review our own papers before you finally submit your written research article for your publication. You have to finally see that your paper is accurate. You write clearly meaning factfully, succinctly, that it is very concise. Always keep it concise. Don't go about the bush. Tell it very simply. Because it is scientific, you don't need to use high jargons and high scientific languages. The user-friendly component, we always talk in technology. The same way, we also have to talk about the simplicity in presenting. So check your grammar, spelling and punctuation. I think nurses, we have to keep writing, practicing writing all the time for our getting the skill down the line. So thank you so much for this lovely time, and I know it's lunchtime, I'm sure. So thank you so much for this time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Kanchana ma'am, thank you so much for the wonderful, very informative things you have discussed here, madam. It's very clear. It's we have understood or the way of presenting publishing the article. Once again, on behalf of Rajiv Gandhi University, I take a privilege to thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm joining, ma'am.
2,500 participants are viewing this in. There are 2,500 participants are viewing through Google or online. I thank each and everybody, and also now I invite to summarize and conclude and thank each and everyone, the participants and the present and resource person. I request Dr. Chetan S. Patel. Sir is Associate Editor, Principal of RGHS Colleges from Bagalkot. Sir, I invite you for the conclusion, sir, and summarizing that webinar. Over to you, sir. Chetan, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I hope you are listening to me.
Yes, sir. We are hearing, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You have given a great opportunity. Good afternoon, one and all. I just now I heard that Dr. Clement sir said that 2,500 participants are there online. They are listening to our webinar, that is research to publication in nursing for UG and PG students. And here I am very thankful to Dr. Sachidara sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor RGHS Bangalore, for giving an inaugural address. And my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Dayanand M, Director Advanced Research RGHS Bangalore, for giving speech on keynote address. In that, sir explained very nicely regarding how the nursing plays a very important role in country or in the world, and how the UG and PG and faculty, how they have to do the research, and how their 4 important areas they have explained very nicely. And he have explained very nicely regarding quantitative and qualitative research approaches, and regarding types also. And RGHS is funding from the 2014 to till now, that is to 2020. RGHS is funding for research works, and he has Dr. Dayananda M sir encouraged nursing faculty and students for publication, doing publication like articles in the nursing journal, which is published in published by RGHS. And secondly, I just would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our beloved sir, that is Dr. Ramu K. Sir, Dean Faculty of Nurses, Bangalore, giving talk on overview of research into publication. And sir has explained very nicely regarding how research works with publication, how publication helps for the research, and how the research paper should be published, and regarding APC, that is article processing charges, that is paid, unpaid, that we have to look into that matter, and we have to publish the papers, like our own papers, into the journals by Dr. Ramu K. Sir very nicely. And thirdly, that is Dr. I. Clement Sir. It is my pleasure to express a deep sense of gratitude to our beloved Dr. Clement Sir, Chief Editor, Nursing Journal, RJHS, Bangalore, for focusing on editorial issues in publishing the article. Sir has nicely explained regarding how and why the issues comes in publication. That is, that might be these, that those are like lack of interest, lack of motivation from the institution. This happens regularly. That is a lack of motivation from the institution. And where to publish, how to publish, why to publish, all those questions need to be answered by the candidate itself. Then only they will be having awareness of getting done of this publication of article, and they will be having lack of encouragement by their senior faculty and some areas, and they will be having lack of recognition also. This is also happens in so many institutions. And along with that, sir has explained how to publish a paper in academic journals and how the process of publication will be. And after that, Madam Dr. Esther Shirley Daniel, Madam, nicely explained regarding, and my sincere thanks to deep appreciation to beloved Dr. Esther Shirley Daniel, Madam, senior lecturer, the UWI School of Nursing, for putting light on writing thesis or dissertation. Madam has explained very well regarding all the sections comes under dissertation or the thesis. Those are like front pages or initial pages, introduction, objectives, hypothesis, literature review, methodology, results, conclusion, etc., summary, annexures, and how this APA and Vancouver references should be done, and citation generation also explained by Madam. It was very nicely. And one more very important thing explained by Madam is plagiarism test or plagiarism check. And this is very important because simply we should not keep copying others' details from the Google and just copy and paste is no more use, because nowadays plagiarism check or test must be done. And now after some years or after some days, again it will be coming for UG and PG also. And Madam was about to play one Mr. Bean video, and unfortunately it was not happened. Anyway, Madam has explained even that also regarding like how the Mr. Bean give expression regarding thesis writing, And the next one, my sincere thanks to Dr. Rebecca Thompson, Madam, Dean, College of Nursing, Pondicherry, Institute of Medical Sciences, Puducherry, for drawing the attention regarding utilization and communicating research findings. Madam has explained what is research, why research. Actually, it is about to explain, but technical error, Madam was not able to go for it. And finally, the last, I acknowledge my gratitude to Dr. Kanchana Madam, Principal and Research Director, Omayalachi College of Nursing, Chennai, for explicitly focusing on writing research article. Really, I'm telling, Madam explained very nicely each and everything. And even I was sitting and listening to Madam's speech. It was very, very, very nice. Madam has explained regarding research article writing highlights. Those are meaning, reflection, before we start to write those, it should be logical and it should be clear thinking and clear writing, and how we should know our audience, like the person who is going to read it next, that audience we should know. Then knowing our style, that is APA, CMC, MLA, and Harvard, NLM, and finally that is Vancouver style. And madam has very nicely explained regarding APA style in the that IMRD, while regarding when she was explaining regarding IMRD, that is IMARD, that I will come later. And knowing our journal where we are going to publish, that we should know. And knowing the basic structure, that is comes under this IMRD, that is introduction, methods, results, discussion. And in that madam explained very nicely regarding APA. And knowing the writing article, that is title, abstract, text, references, tables, figures, conclusion, all these things explained by Dr. Kanchana madam, it was very nicely. And finally madam has given a very good note, that is we should write accurately, clearly, write succinctly, then check the grammar and spelling, all those things very neatly. And we should minimum we have to go our dissertation or thesis while writing minimum per day at least 10 times, because once we go into our content again and again, so we find out some of the grammar, spelling, or some other mistakes, so that once we clear all those things, then it can be, once it is published somewhere, then somebody can see, yeah, it is published by that one person. That is very important. And finally, very thankful to all who are comes under international webinar on in for UG and PG students. Thanks thanking you for an opportunity. And once again, I'm thankful to Dr. Satyananda sir, Ramu sir, and sir. Over to Clement sir.
Over, sir. Sir,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
shall I wind up, sir? Sir, thank you so much, sir. Chetan sir, you have given a very brief and very informative, concluded everything in a few words. So thank you so much. And also we just want to say that it's a Rajiv Gandhi has taken only an initiation for organizing this webinar. We are just we have a plan. We are going to come up with the other webinar on advances in nursing research, and we are collaborating with the national and international agencies. We are contributing in this webinar. So I need your kind support and encouragement and participation in coming up webinars organized by Rajiv Gandhi University. And also, and I take a apology for asking the technical problems. Issues happened initially twice. We had a problem, we changed the link also. So I ask apology for the things that happened initially. So I'll hand over this webinar session to Ramu sir. He will be just concluding and thanking everybody. Sir.
Thank you, sir. And we are concluding here on behalf of entire nursing fraternity. I'm very thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Satyananda sir, and Dr. Dayananda sir, Director Advanced Research of Rajiv Gandhi University of Sciences, and especially Dr. Clement really has taken a lot of pain to conduct this session. And also resource persons like Dr. Esther Shirley, Dr. Rebecca Simpson, Dr. Kanchana, and especially the person who has given excellent conclusion and summary of this overall webinar, Dr. Chetan S. Patel. Thank you so much, all of you, and hope I will continue the same such webinars in the future. Shortly, we are having webinar also, one more international webinar. So hope we'll join for that. And once again, on behalf of Rajiv Gandhi University, thank you so much, all of you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very important.
3,800.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, Chetan. Thank you.
800 participants viewing in YouTube.
But really good.